My name is Bianca and I'm a graduate student in neuroscience. I was from a really small town called Innisfil. It's fairly rural. There's not a lot that goes on around there. And most of the people there have fairly traditional views of getting married and having kids and then staying in that small town. There's not a lot of diversity or different people. I think growing up I had sort of a sheltered perspective of what the world looked like. I thought that there was only one cookie cutter type mold that every person fit into or was trying to fit into. So I think deep down I kind of always knew that I was gay. I think in some extent I always knew, but I didn't want to accept it. I remember for a really long time trying to force that part out of me, and I thought that if I tried hard enough I could pretend enough to make everyone, including myself, believe it. But then I met somebody that I was working with and we started getting really close, and I realized that the feelings that I was having for her were different from it was the way that people talked about being in love or those sorts of things. That was what I was feeling. So I couldn't really hide it anymore. And so I kind of didn't really have a choice but to come out at that point. And that was kind of hard at first just because I lived in, like I said, a small town with very kind of traditional views of what relationships should look like. And I did receive a lot of backlash at first for that. I had been working at a job for 6 years. And then when they found out, they started writing me up to try and let me go because it probably looked bad for their job having me. And I lost some friends and stuff like that too. And that definitely kind of influenced the way that I carried myself around people, because I was really scared that if people found out about that part of me, that I wouldn't be given the same opportunities as other people. When I first came to Carleton, I was really nervous and really apprehensive about kind of sharing my identity with people, because I thought that if they found out, I would not be given the same opportunities as my peers. So I kept that part of myself really private. But then slowly I started sharing that with trusted individuals, and I realized it wasn't a scary or bad thing to share with people. It was just a part of me to share. It's not something I can control, so that's what kind of made it difficult. But in the end, I decided to still try just because I love neuroscience a lot and I really wanted to learn. And I'm glad I did take the chance because it ended up being really gratifying in the end. In my second year, I had the opportunity to volunteer in a research lab. And through that experience, I was able to learn how to formulate questions and perform different experiments. And I just kind of got the full sort of experience of what research would look like. I was able to attend conferences, present posters, and then that kind of developed into a passion and I really enjoyed it. So I decided to pursue graduate studies also here at Carleton. So I'm studying a receptor in the brain known as KLB, or beta-klotho. And this receptor is involved in a number of things, including drinking alcohol and eating sugar. However, it's also involved in metabolic disorders like obesity and diabetes. And so my master's thesis involves looking at where this receptor is in the brain, because if we know kind of its locations in the brain, that'll just give us a better idea of maybe what it's doing in the brain. And so I'm specifically looking at maybe how this receptor is involved in the stress response. So when we get really stressed out, our brain will kind of signal to our body to produce sort of increased sweat and stuff like that. And so I'm kind of looking at maybe how that receptor mediates it.
It's not only Bianca's identity that I think is inspiring, I think it's also who she is as a person. Her commitment to excellence and her ability to, not shy away from obstacles, even though obstacles are many. That's something that's very unique in my experience with Bianca. And in doing so, I think she serves as a role model for many young girls who want to pursue science.
I think I've been really fortunate at Carleton because I've been accepted both for my sexuality and my gender. And people have always been really nice to me here and really accepting, and that's been really nice and reaffirming. The environment at Carleton definitely helped me slowly kind of come out of my shell because it was really accepting. And at first I was really quiet. I was kind of just a wallflower. I would just kind of see, and there was so many people who were out and open and sharing their identities and their lived experiences. And then as I saw other people's reactions to them, that started making me feel more comfortable being able to share who I was. And then I'm glad that I was able to then share that with people because it Like I no longer had to hide myself and people could actually like me for me, not some like fabricated image of myself. But I also think that by sharing who I am and also being like out and sharing that part of myself, it allows maybe other people who were like me in a small town to see that they could also pursue it. And then if they also pursue it, it makes science more diverse.